It is the final day of the transfer portal, thank God. And South Carolina has landed two big names in the portal, a quarterback and also a running back from Texas. We talk about that. We talk about one player that's also lost and some weird things around it. And a preview of tomorrow's basketball game against Auburn. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler, host of the Locked On Gamecocks podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Podcast Network, now the number one ranked sports podcast network in America. And we have you to thank for that, and we are very appreciative of it. We also have FanDuel to thank for today's show, because they are the sponsors of today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. So Monday's the last game of the season. Then we will bid adieu to another year of college football. Usually the worst day of the year. It's so weird now, though, because it's like in late January. It'll be January 19th, MLK weekend. So it's like usually that's like your first break of the new year, right? And then you get into February. But January seems like it takes forever usually. It is flying by for me personally because we have the transfer portal every day. It closes tonight. I am filming this at 6:37 Central Time, 7:37 Eastern Time. I don't know what time in London, but I'm sure they're watching there too. Big day. Big day. South Carolina lands a big, big pickup from running back Christian Clark. And I tell you what, what's that old phrase? I hated this when I was in sales way back in the day, like 2012 version of me. Not a good version. You think this one's bad. You should have seen that one. But sales job, Chris, working for iHeartMedia in Atlanta, Georgia. And there was a phrase they used to always say, coffee is for closers. It's from some movie in the 80s. I think Glenn Ross. Anyway, none of that's important. But coffee is for closers is the phrase and the saying. There's a lot of coffee being drank right now in the South Carolina facilities because they are closing at an unbelievable pace. Now, we talked about this the other day. You had 24 players that had visited at the time. 14 had closed into a commitment or signing or both. That has picked up. You have a couple players that are now visiting right now. And one of the players that was visiting yesterday, Caleb Herring, defensive end from Tennessee, former four-star, he commits. South Carolina gets another commitment from today from a running back from Texas who was on the same official visit with Shane Beamer and company last night. You could see him at the game against Texas for the women's basketball game last night. That was fantastic. But Christian Clark, it is I think a really big pickup. You've picked up 3 running backs in this portal class. I don't know if you needed that many. I kind of love that you were able to get them. Out of the 3, I'll just be honest, I'm most excited about this one. And that's not any shade to Sam Dixon or Jabri Coleman. You have signed 3 kids in this portal class alone at running back. I think Matthew Fuller is full of talent. If I'm Matthew Fuller, I might even be a little bit PO'd, which is like only going to make him work harder in the offseason, if we're being honest, right? If I'm him, I'm a little bit frustrated because you've now brought in 3 running backs, but it was also a position of need. You had to do it. I don't know if you needed 3, but by God, we have to win, and we have to win now. That's got to be the motto for Shane Beamer. So you go out and get Christian Clark. Now, who is Christian Clark? Well, if you're like me and you love college football and you love the bowl season, no matter how many bowl games there are, am I waking up on a Tuesday in December now at 39 and watching the Idaho Famous Potato Bowl? Probably not. Probably not. But I am watching the Pop-Tart Bowl, and I am watching the Cheez-It Bowl. And if you watch the Cheez-It Bowl, you saw Christian Clark, running back from Texas, go off, be the Cheez-It Bowl MVP with a 20 carry for 105-yard and 1 touchdown performance against Michigan. There's a lot more to like about him than that, right? This is one of 5 players that have left Texas at the running back position. And I talked to some people that would be in the know about this kid specifically and where he ranked in that running back room. And there's there's just weirdness now in the way that like some of these things are set up. CJ Baxter was a 5-star recruit from Texas. He was a 5-star recruit from Texas. Really good player out of high school. Really good player a couple of years ago. Just has not figured out how to get back from injury and be as consistent and as productive as he was a couple of years ago. The word that I was told was CJ Baxter is broken. And the fact that this is a kid that was behind him and several others on the depth chart was kind of like a surprise, because you saw him in that bowl game against Michigan, which was a pretty good defense. And it's like one of their things they hang their hat on. He was really good. He was really good. And I tell you what's surprising to me is you knew that Texas was going to go spend money in the portal, but you figured out a way where you sat here and said, like, they're going to spend money in the portal. They went and got 2 top running backs, and they spent a ton of money in there. But this was also a guy, when you saw the first flurry of players leave Texas, there were 4 players in the running back room that all left within a couple of days of each other, like right away. Starters, I mean, like everyone, like Wisner left, CJ Baxter left. He's at Kentucky now. Other 2 backups left. This kid stayed, played in the Cheez-It Bowl, which I happen to love. Like make the most of your opportunity. He did that. You could really make the case that Christian Clark kind of represents the good side of this whole NIL transfer portal era, because what he did was he saw everyone else leave, try to go find a payday, get paid, all that kind of stuff, and go find, grass is greener over here, over there, wherever. His move was, I'm going to play in this bowl game. I'm going to show out and show everyone what my ability is, and I'm going to go find a new place to play if that opportunity presents itself afterwards. And he did. And that place is South Carolina. And that fires me up for so many reasons. It's also like the 3rd win you've had over Texas in the last 24 hours. You beat their ass in basketball, right, on the court for the 4th time in the last 6 meetings. You beat their ass for Caleb Herring, the defensive end from Tennessee that was going to go. He was set to visit Texas after his visit to Columbia. And so for the 2nd time in as many days, you've got a commitment with some kind of Texas ties. And you have shown once again, hey, like we may just be little old South Carolina down here. I hate to use a Dabo phrase at all. We might just be South Carolina and an afterthought, and people like constantly dismiss us, blah, blah, blah. Sure, we'll go take this kid from Texas. We'll go take this kid from Ohio State. We'll go take this kid from Penn State. 3 pretty good schools that obviously saw something in these running backs, and now they're all going to compete for playing time, either ahead or behind of Matthew Fuller. And I will tell you this to close out this segment, and one of the reasons I'm most excited about this. I hate cliches. It's like yellow starburst, terrorism, and I don't even know what the 3rd one would be. But cliches would be up there. Those are the things I hate the most, by the way. Yellow starbursts are terrible. They're just terrible. And we are on one tonight, just so you know. It's Friday night. The portal's closing. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I don't have to wake up to 87 texts from people saying, get a graphic for this. This person entered. This person withdrew. Then he re-entered. He flipped his commit. We're having a great Friday. But when you have a kid like Christian Clark and Jabri Coleman and Sam Dixon from these 3 big schools, there's only so many times you can tote the rock, especially when you have Lenore Sellers back there at the quarterback position. What I love most about this is I love Matthew Fuller. I think Matthew Fuller can be great. I think Isaiah Agustave could be great from Colorado, like former 4-star recruit. There's a lot of talent in that room. I remember when I played my final year of college baseball, I was behind 2 seniors that were ahead of me for about 3 years. And I was so happy they were done, because I was like, well, I'm the starter for next year. I can't wait. Like been waiting for this. I had some spot starts in the years prior. Obviously, like played a lot of DH, but hadn't played first base full time yet. Very excited. And lo and behold, our coach brought in 3 players. And I was pissed. And that led to me working my ass off in the offseason to make sure that I was ready to go. And it was the best shape I'd ever been in. It was the best baseball player I'd ever been. It turned me into the best version of myself that I had been for that sport. You're going to see that in this running back room. You're going to see it in a lot of positions in South Carolina for sure. But you're going to see that at this position, especially in the running back room. And it's a position of need. It really fell off the face of the earth last year in comparison from a production standpoint to the year before. Rocket Sanders goes to the NFL, and it just like you had nothing. Part of that's the offensive line. Part of that was the talent in that room. And now you have some of that talent back, but you also have a better offensive line, I think. You got a new running backs coach, a new offensive line coach, a new offensive coordinator. And it's just everything feels like such a fresh start And getting a guy like Christian Clark is big for a number of reasons. And it's not just because you got a kid that just showed out on the field how good of a player he can be. Wasn't a highly ranked recruit. Talking about a 3-star out of high school, the number 42 ranked running back in the country on 247, number 10 player out of Arizona, but has shown his ability on the field for an SEC school. And now you go into this year, there's just no way you were going to have the lack of creativity from Boomer Mike Shula to come in here. You have a young, vibrant OC, a new offensive line coach, a new running backs coach, and all these fresh faces from the portal. And also on top of that, all the returning players you have. It just feels like a new day and age of South Carolina football, and it's something to get excited about. So that is the first part of the show. When we come back, I want to tell you about a player lost and the weird thing around it, which also applies to a little bit of the Michael Smith thing that we heard from Syracuse. Also a little bit of the story I just told you from my days of playing. And then last but not least, another quarterback, which has lo and behold become pretty overlooked at this cycle, but also a position of need if we're being honest. So we have all of that. We have an update from the portal overall. The portal closes in exactly 4 hours and 14 minutes. So we will continue on. Locked on Gamecocks continues right for this. All right, we are back. Want to give a quick shout out to our friends at FanDuel. Listen, the college football playoff is here. Final game's on Monday. I put out my best bets earlier this week on LouisianaSports.net. Shameless plug. Make sure you go check it out. We have been pretty much on fire for most of the playoff. It's been a lot better in the regular season, but FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to win if you get on the action right now, and you can get on the action after that for every single game day of the playoffs. Right now, every college football playoff game is a game day, and FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app the moment they get into the app. I've told you this 1,000 times. Everything is at your fingertips in the FanDuel app. It is awesome. You can bet on money lines. You can bet on the spread. You can bet on the over-under. You can bet on whatever you want. In addition to all that, player props and live betting are right there for you. But right now, if you want to get in on the profit boost, here's what I love most about it. If you're already feeling confident about a pick, right now I feel pretty confident that Indiana's going to score first. I'm jumping all over that. I also think Fernando Mendoza is going to throw for over 218 yards. I'm going to jump all over that. I might parlay those two things together in the FanDuel app, and I might do that with a profit boost as well. When you apply the profit boost and go after even bigger winnings, when you win, FanDuel pays you out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get on the action and all playoff long, so visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every single game day. Let's get into the second part of the show. South Carolina, I already told you who they landed. They also landed a quarterback kind of off the radar, just out of nowhere. I wouldn't say out of nowhere because I'm sure behind the scenes they had been working on this, but it was something that we were not super aware of that was even in play, but it happened, and I'm excited about it. It's a kid out of Clark Central High School from Athens, Georgia, a place that I have been by just countless times growing up in the state of Georgia. It is a kid from Bowling Green, Lucian Anderson III. And here's the thing, too. Lenore Sellers is the guy, right? Like we need Lenore to stay healthy all year. We need him to have a really, really big final year at South Carolina. And I feel like if he is those things and he can peak in this offense and learn how to run the RPO to it, like it's still a crime that the RPO wasn't run more with him in the last offense. You saw it kind of manifest into some more productivity and just a relevancy, I guess is the best way to put it, at the end of the season when Mike Fury was the OC and play caller. But what you also need is depth. And one of the reasons why is Luke Doty is finally out of eligibility. That is one thing. Aaron Nolan is obviously gone. So when you look at what you have behind him, you have Cutter Woods, who I think a lot of us are really high on. You have Landon Duckworth coming in, who is really, really good. But we were so focused and hyper-focused on interior defensive line depth. You got to figure out whatever you're going to do in the offensive line, and you need so many bodies because so many people left at that position. They went and got receiver help. They went and got running back help as well. Got a couple good defensive backs, especially Quay Scott. I think it's going to be awesome. But this was also a position you just didn't think about, really. Like, you just did not – the quarterback position, after you re-signed Lenore's, we haven't really talked about it. Like, no one has. And going out and getting a guy that started at the FBS level, Lucian Anderson III, listen, he was redshirted as a true freshman in 2023, kid from Athens, Georgia, right? Had offers from all over the country, but all smaller places. Yale, which I would have gone in a heartbeat. Wofford, Harvard, UT Martin, Florida Atlantic, Army, Air Force, all of those schools had offered him. He redshirts in 2023. In 2024, he threw for 32 yards and a touchdown while rushing for 67 and 2 more scores. Nothing crazy. This past season, he saw the field more. He had 5 games that he played in, 2 starts, and he had 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 161 rushing yards. This is a body. Your backup quarterback is most likely going to be Cutter Woods. You also do have a walk-on quarterback, Jimmy Francis, as well. But Landon Duckworth, coming in as a true freshman, I think could be the future. I also think Cutter Woods could be. Like, we saw him in the spring game last year. There's a lot of people that are very high on Cutter Woods. God willing, Landon Duckworth is not injured at all. Like, he just is able – not Landon Duckworth. Lenore Sellers is not injured at all. God willing, none of them are injured, right? But me and my coworker down here talked about this the other day. It's also not that realistic. You look at South Carolina specifically, right? Like from a depth standpoint, there were times 2 years ago, Robbie Ashford had to start the second half against LSU. We all feel like we would have won that game if South Carolina doesn't have to go make a change and put QB2 in because Lenore's hurts his ankle. Robbie Ashford was great the following week against Akron. They put up 50 points and like a bazillion yards. He was fantastic. Ends up using that kind of tape and his ability to go to Wake Forest. Thought he was great this year for them. Cutter Woods was fantastic. I think in the spring game, Luke Doty was also a person that you were able to fill in and have some experience there. He went from quarterback to tight end back to quarterback in like year 18 that he was on campus, and we love him for it. But it was obviously a pretty big drop-off in the Vanderbilt game. You have had at this school alone your quarterback knocked out of a big game, an SEC game, 2 years in a row. You look around the country. Garrett Nussmeier was hurt for LSU. Alabama didn't really have it. Auburn didn't have any injuries that really caused it, but you have seen them have to use a backup quarterback. Oklahoma the same exact way. They also had an injury with John Mateer at quarterback, so Michael Hawkins had to start. Arch Manning had to step in for Quinn Ewers last year. Marcel Reed only got to make a start because Connor Wegman got injured. I mean, I can go on and on. Cutter Boley, the freshman from Kentucky, same thing because Zach Calzada got hurt. Gunnar Stockton had to come in at Georgia because of Carson Beck. On and on and on. I think we had counted 9 total instances over the past couple of years where the starter went out. You don't want that to happen, but if it happens, you definitely need depth, right? You definitely need depth. So this is a depth piece. It's a guy that has played at the FBS level at least. He had 2 starts this past season. Now, the numbers aren't great, but again, this is not something you're hoping to be the future of your program. This is a kind of a lost art, if you're being honest. It's like in the past, you would get depth pieces because you need a full roster to be what you want to be as a team, even just to run practice. And so this is a really, I think it's a smart play. It's a depth piece. It's something we haven't really talked about, but it's also something we definitely needed. We just had overlooked it because there were so many other needs we were so focused on. So I'm excited about it. Now, the other side of that is a player that entered the portal in the past. I think it happened an hour after we posted last night's show. And that is Desmond. I'm not even going to attempt the last name. Not just because I'm upset, because I know I'll get it wrong, right? Desmond Umazulu enters the portal. I thought this was going to be a key piece this year. I really did. I thought it was going to be a guy that was able to take the next step and be a really valuable asset on the other side of Dylan Stewart. He was in the program, former 4-star recruit, had been in the program for I think it was 3 years. This year he had his best year. He had 19 tackles, 2 TFLs, and 1 sack. It felt like a guy that had played. I brought him up several times throughout the year. I thought he was a really good piece at times when his motor was in the right place. It's a former 4-star recruit, top 150 player overall. I just kind of thought that that he would be a guy that stayed. And what's frustrating about this is this. Here's what you've lost now, okay? And this is what I don't really get. Brian Thomas Jr. graduated. So did JT Garrett. So did Damon Clowney. So that's fine. You lost 3 guys there, but you've lost 5 at this position with Desmond Umazulu and also Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown, a former high-ranked recruit, went to Missouri and then was injured here. He follows Sterling Lucas to LSU. Maybe that's a good, added depth piece. I don't know. And so now you're looking at this and you're like, well, thank God they went out and got Drew Collins. Kelby Collins can, he can play inside or outside, I guess. He played more outside at Alabama because he just wasn't like the guys they had on the interior were a lot bigger. Drew Collins obviously is a pure edge rusher from Arkansas State, his brother. And then you have Julian Walker, a top 100 recruit that showed out the Army All-American game. Maybe he is a difference maker this year in year 1. And I hate to say it, but that's kind of what you have to hope happens. What's interesting is there was a couple reports online that said that Desmond had already signed his paperwork to stay. And I don't know how accurate that is because you have seen this. We talked about Michael Smith at Syracuse. You've also seen it with Damon Williams at Washington. But if that is the case, then by all means, that kid would stay because you're not going to just let someone of that caliber of talent walk out the door. But regardless of the level of talent, if they have put their name on paper and put pen to paper with their signature, just like with Michael Smith, just like with Damon Williams at Washington, they're going. They're playing for that team. So it gives me pause because I didn't see it from just one person. I will also say I don't know how accurate that is because if it was, it feels like there'd be more people talking about it. And all I have seen at the latest, as of 8:00 Eastern time on Friday night, is that he has entered the portal. That's it. And I haven't seen any kind of backlash on it or anything like that. He has just entered the portal. Now, where he stands in the portal, it's not, super great. It's I think he's a top 900 player. I'll make sure I pull it up to be on the safe side. But it's not a player that is like, oh my God, it's a top 100 guy that you lost to the portal. He's going to be a 4 or 5-star recruit in the portal that everyone's going to be going after. But it is a guy that played a bunch. It's a veteran that's played for 3 years as a backup and more of a role player at South Carolina. And now it's also a guy that you thought you would be able to count on going into next year. I told you this would happen, though, in the portal in general, which was a late shift and a late flurry of players that were going to enter the portal. We saw it over and over again. But when I was prepping for the show, I was about 15, 30 minutes of just making sure the graphics are right, in addition to not to what the prep for the content and all that kind of stuff before, but just getting the graphic ready. Here's the order I'm going to do. Make sure I have the ad reads ready. Probably took 15 to 30 minutes, just whatever. There were 8 players from the G5 teams alone that entered the portal in that time window. And I said this was going to happen because we saw it so many times over and over in the past couple of years where you had somebody or several players that were like, someone's going to get desperate. Someone's going to need players. I don't think that's the situation we're in right here. I think Desmond saw, hey, they brought Caleb Herring in. Where's my role? What am I going to do? And if I'm not going to be the starter, I don't want to be here. I think that's a bad move because I think he would have played a bunch. Here. What worries me, and I'm not saying it's going to happen because, again, yesterday we had a big show yesterday about Caleb Herring coming in. It was a massive, massive pickup. But what worries me is, okay, if you have that as someone you're bringing in, but you still lost 5 guys to the portal and graduation combined, are we going to see a drop-off at this position unit similar to what we saw at the interior defensive line? And I think the answer is no, because you still have arguably the best player at that position in the whole country starting for you with Dylan Stewart. What's frustrating to me, though, is we saw this last year in the natural drop-off, not just in talent and veteran experience, but also in just bodies at that position. It was pretty big and pretty impactful for the interior defensive line. There's a reason why they struggled against the run at times. I hope we don't see that kind of drop-off. I do think it would have been a really good opportunity for him to stay and play. So will he withdraw his name? I don't know. The last side of this I'll talk about is, and we'll get into it in the final part of the show, that you have until midnight on the East Coast to enter your name in the portal. That doesn't mean you have to have a school picked by midnight. It also doesn't mean you can't withdraw your name. But if you want to enter the portal, you have to do it by midnight. I expect fully to see more names entered, maybe not from South Carolina, but just in general. When we come back from break, we'll talk about some of the numbers that are there and where they currently stand. But I would not be surprised at all if that is what happens in the final few hours here as we get into the closing of the portal. When we come back, we will talk a little bit about that, some of the sheer numbers around the country, and we will also talk about the preview for tomorrow's basketball game, give you a prediction on that, and where we go from there. Locked on Gamecocks continues right after this. All right, we're back. Closing out today's show. Listen, thank you once again, by the way, for making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Thank you for making Locked On Sports Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. Can't say thank you enough for listening to the show and making it a priority on your listens. We've seen tremendous growth this year, and now we have an opportunity to kind of give back to something I'm really excited about, and that is the Everydayer Club. Now, the Everydayer Club is this. It is, I believe it's $5 a month. It is a way to sign up, get up to the date and exclusive information and content from the show. You also, by the way, if you are tired of hearing me blabber and sputter through some of the ad reads, it's an ad-free version of the show on YouTube, or I'm sorry, on where all Apple, Spotify, or other wherever your podcasts are available on all of those platforms. It's also creates a new opportunity for you to interact with me and also other listeners of the show in a Discord that we have set up there in a Discord server. It includes a group chat for listeners of this show, including me, and we will get that going, I'm sure, especially baseball season. Like, I'm excited for baseball season this year. So make sure you are taking advantage of that. Sign up today. It is only $5 a month. It is ad-free listening and also exclusive content and interaction with other listeners of the pod, other South Carolina athletic fans, South Carolina football fans, whatever, and me as well. I will drop the URL to join in the show notes that will show up in both, where if you're listening on audio or if you're watching on YouTube, you can take advantage of both. But I urge you to do it. It is a great, great time, and I'm excited to get in on it with all of you guys. So that is the Everydayer Club. I'm telling you, it's a really cool opportunity and a really cool initiative we're doing in 2026. Very excited to be doing it. So let's close out today's show with this. Basketball. Let's wait for basketball. Let's just hold off on that for a second. Let's talk about instead these are the numbers, the sheer numbers we have for the portal. The portal closes in a couple hours. We will have a follow-up to this tomorrow for sure. And I'm not sure if you'll hear more players that commit. There are a couple players right now that are visiting. You get an offensive lineman from Bucknell, as well as another offensive lineman visiting South Carolina. You've had 4 guys that were scheduled to visit this weekend. And those guys, so far, 2 of them have already committed in Christian Clark and then obviously Caleb Herring. Those are 2 higher profile names because you got them from Texas and Tennessee. What you also have from a visit standpoint, let me make sure I have this correct, Dara Adeyemi from Bucknell comes on Sunday. And then Talik Lockett, the kid from Texas State we talked about earlier, he is currently on his visit on Friday night as the portal is closing. So 2 offensive linemen from there. They're still trying to shore up some of the offensive line at South Carolina. Big picture-wise, it's been fascinating to watch this entire portal thing open. It's the first time they've had only one window that's opened, and there are some pretty unique numbers to throw around. I'm going to give you the up-to-date numbers here from On3. There's been some other numbers that have floated around. In all 3 levels, all 3 levels of college football, there are over 10,000 players in the portal. Over 6,000 of those players still have not found a home. That's insane. From the FBS level, the numbers are a little bit different. You have 3,206 players that have entered the portal. That's down from last year, by the way. And you have 1,824 players that have committed. That's 57% of the players that have entered the portal have committed so far. To put that in perspective, in the past, I threw out a graphic about this today over at Vern_Funquist on Twitter. In the last couple of years, the lowest number you had for players entering the portal and then finding a new home was 65%. You also saw that number rise up to 68 and 69% over the past 2 seasons, which means 31 and 32% of players never found a home. That number is drastically different this year. At the start of today, the final day of the portal, the number was over 1,000 players. There were 1,000 players less than the previous year had found a home. It was at 56%. That is a drop off of 13% from the previous year. 13% less than the previous year. And 1,000 less players. 1,000 less players have been able to find a new home this year versus last year. It's just a staggering amount. And it's something we're going to see more and more. We used to talk about all the time with juniors entering the NFL draft, where they would come in and be advised, hey, man, there's you're gonna get drafted, you're gonna get paid. And we thought that was so bad. It's one of the reasons why the portal was such a good idea. Because you were tired of seeing these kids have someone tell them bad advice to go enter the NFL draft and then go undrafted and they make no money, where they could have come back and played another year and then either at least had gotten their education and degree or had another year of being able to put stuff on tape and then go to the draft. And now we're seeing the same thing happen just in the transfer portal with less and less players being able to find a home. We'll see what that number goes to. I'm very interested to see what that number rises to in terms of total players that enter the portal on the final day. Again, it closes in a couple hours. We will report back on that tomorrow for sure. I don't expect South Carolina to have any more crazy moves. It was a big day in the SEC with 30 players committing overall, and only 10 players that entered the portal, including Desmond from South Carolina. So that is all for the portal. I cannot wait to where we can have shows that are just breaking down the certain players and position groups and not shows that are having to talk about the influx of play. I'm so exhausted from the portal. But that should be the final. This should be the final night. It'll finally close at midnight on the East Coast. Tomorrow, South Carolina basketball goes to Auburn in a big game. And I tell you what, I brought this up on yesterday's show. Lamont Paris, is he going to start being on the hot seat? I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of that contract. I can tell you there are 2 programs that I'm close to, South Carolina and LSU, that are very much in the same boat. You've got a coach that's in year 3 or 4, Matt McMahon down here at LSU, and then obviously Lamont Paris at South Carolina. They have very different years and tenures so far. Lamont Paris saw nothing but success in his first year. Dropped off a table in year 2. He dropped off a table with a top 15 pick in the NBA draft, by the way, with Colin Murray Boyles. That's craziness. He only had 2 wins from last season in SEC play. But these are 2 teams that also have very, very big uphill battles when it comes to NIL. And one of the reasons why is that you're seeing Kentucky self-admittedly, by their own admission, is a better way to phrase it, they spent $22 million in NIL money on their basketball roster. Alabama was around 5, I think, last year. I think that number probably grew this year. You're seeing this happen more and more across the SEC. And even though both LSU and South Carolina upped their spending, they've upped their spending. They have still found themselves in the bottom 4 and bottom 25% of the SEC. So what does that mean? Well, it means that those 2 teams are combined 1-7 in SEC play. It means that in the past 2 years, they're combined 6 and 38 in SEC play. And that is very frustrating. Tomorrow would be a big, big win because you're going to Auburn, and that is a tough place to play. You have fought really hard. You should have probably beaten Georgia last week, but found a way to lose. Auburn is a team that's reeling right now. They are reeling. They are not a very good basketball team. They just went on the road, got their ass beat by double digits against Missouri. They haven't been great in their first year under Stephen Pearl. It would be a big win. Sadly, there's no part of me that thinks that they're going to be able to go on the road in that much of a hostile environment and win that game. But I'll tell you what, it would go a long way for Lamont Paris and this team if they were able to get that. Because there's dudes on this team that can score and can shoot. And they just have not found a way to put it all together. So maybe that happens tomorrow. The game is at 6 p.m. tomorrow on Saturday. We'll make sure we have a live show afterwards to talk about it. It probably won't be a live show. I think we have date night, so it will not be a live show. But that will happen as well. Long show tonight, very long-winded. I'm going to go have a beer and relax. I appreciate you guys. And until next time, Go Cox.